By continuing down the path that doesn't really resonate with you, it can result in a loss of passion. And without passion, that affects the alignment, which affects your enthusiasm, which affects what your customers experience, and overall, it affects your performance. Welcome to the Master Your Business podcast, where we bring you the best in branding, marketing, and customer experience strategies. I'm Deirdre Martin, your host. And if you've been asking yourself how to level up your growing business, your marketing, your customer experience, or how to make more of an impact with your brand, this show is for you. You'll discover actionable tips and insights to help businesses just like yours gain clarity and illuminate the path to success. Train with industry experts, learn sales and marketing strategies, business and mindset hacks, and be inspired by authentic entrepreneurship stories. As your host, I share the no-nonsense advice that accelerated my journey from boring bank manager to industry thought leader in marketing and customer experience. Learn how I made the leap into the world of six-figure success, digital courses, keynote speaking, and co-authoring a #1 bestseller in just 1 year. Together with interviews from industry experts, this show ensures you're seen, heard, and hired by your ideal clients. Join our growing community of subscribers and let the Master Your Business podcast empower you to tackle your most significant challenges on your path to business success. Don't miss out. It's your turn to learn from the best and master your dream business. Do you ever take some time off from your business and then come back and wonder, am I doing the right things? Or while you're off, you're thinking, gosh, my business is kind of sucking the life out of me. Is it time for a pivot? Well, if that's you, I can honestly say I've been there multiple times, where I remember sitting a few years ago, sitting on my couch, snuggled up watching the TV with the fireplace roaring and wondering if I was at all on the right path. And the decision that I made then and there changed everything. It was just over 2 years ago, and I'd come back from a beautiful night away with my husband in a fabulous 5-star hotel, Michelin star meal, and I really had a change of heart and mindset and thought something has to give. And if that at all resonates with you, if you're feeling like that after having some time off, stay tuned. I'm Deirdre Martin, a triple certified, award-winning and international best-selling author, and I help entrepreneurs like you make their first 100K or their first million in their businesses. And in today's episode of the Master Your Business podcast, we're diving into the 3 reasons to pivot on purpose in your service business. And by the end, you'll know if a pivot is right for you, and if so, how you can do it intentionally. Right, let's get started. First and foremost, have you ever felt like your business is running you instead of you running it the way it should be and the way you know it should be? And if that's the case, potentially there's a misalignment with your vision and your values. And why this matters is because potentially you're at the risk of burnout. And by continuing down the path that doesn't really resonate with you, it could end up leading to exhaustion and other health challenges. And we really don't want that to happen for ourselves. And I certainly don't want that to happen for you. But also it can result in a loss of passion. And without passion, that affects the alignment, which affects your enthusiasm, which affects what your customers experience. And overall, it affects your performance. And I don't know if this will make any sense to you whatsoever, but I certainly feel that when I'm not making money, that it's really common thing for me, a trap to fall into that I struggle with is that I align my self-worth with how much money I'm making. So if I'm making crap money, I feel like crap. And that can really easily happen if I'm misaligned in terms of my vision and where I'm going with my brand and my business and what my values are. So how I overcame this was by really enjoying that time by the fire, but also having that time away. It did really genuinely help me to figure out, what am I doing? And do I need to pivot or do I need to stay the course? So set aside some quiet time where you have no distractions and it's just you and your thoughts. And ask yourself like a really tough question, which is, does my current business model reflect my core values? and my long-term vision. And by your core values, I mean, these are the things that you would get up and fight people over. I have recorded an episode on values. You're welcome to go back and tune into it. It was episode number 99, which is how your business values can drive explosive success. So go and check that out if you haven't listened to it previously. But in determining what that vision is and asking yourself that tough question, it can help you to identify, what the misalignments are. If you're not clear what your values are, you haven't done that work, go and definitely check out that episode and then list out your values and check where your values are at versus your current reality and what are the gaps. And then prioritize what's non-negotiable for you. Like what has to change to align you with your true self. So like what parts don't light you up? What are you doing that just feels so hard and takes you out of flow? And if you find that there's a load of things that you're doing in your business that are sucking the life out of you, it's draining your batteries and you're really just feeling the ick when it comes to your business and oh my gosh, nobody wants this. Have you watched that on Netflix? If you have, you'll know it's so hard to come back from the ick. I didn't know the ick was a thing. I thought it was just me. It's a long time ago since I was out dating guys and realizing they give me the ick. But yeah, there you go. So plan the pivot. If it's a case that you're like, yes, this is just not working, then it is an intentional planning the pivot and doing it on purpose. But to do that, you need to define the new direction. And that's where your brand strategy comes in. You need to be specific about what needs to shift. And if you're thinking, okay, how can I get my strategic thinking cap really off and going? Well, then listen into episode 73 because it's all about strategic thinking and how you can leverage strategic thinking to grow your business or at least get you in the right track. And if you're planning a pivot intentionally and on purpose right now, it will absolutely help you think differently and bigger, which is amazing because the next thing you want to be doing is setting clear goals. So what do you want to achieve with this pivot? And maybe just like a client I worked with, she had a fantastic marketing agency, but what she realized was it was really draining her and she wasn't getting to do the things that she truly loved, which was more so focusing on strategy rather than in the delivery of the marketing materials. She wanted to help people strategize in the marketing as opposed to actually doing the marketing. So she came to me after being 18 years as a marketing agency owner and freaked me out because she wanted help with her story and her messaging. And I'm like, why me? But anyway, she came into one of my programs and we have had incredible success realigning her services so that she is no longer a marketing agency, but now a marketing consultant. Her passion has soared and this is still new, but I'm quite sure her profits are going to soar as well. She's incredibly capable, already getting clients, and I'm really confident for her. It's exciting. But what she didn't do, and I really admire this, and I want you to take this on board as well, is don't wait until you burn out. By the time you burn out, it's already too late. Early recognition allows for a smoother transition. For me, I was lucky. What I realized was when I went through my values and my reality, what I realized was my values and my reality were aligned. And in fact, I did not need to pivot. I just needed to leverage strategic thinking around my brand so that I could really step into that brand and own it and be disruptive and stand out to attract my ideal clients. So if you're thinking things aren't working and you need to pivot, follow those steps. But if you're thinking, well, actually, my values and my reality are aligned, it still comes back to the strategic thinking. And maybe perhaps then there's a gap between your strategy and your messaging in terms of what you're communicating externally. So the second part of this, if you're thinking of pivoting on purpose, the second reason to do it might be because market demands have changed significantly. And then in that case, sticking to the same old services when the market has moved on is basically going to make you irrelevant. And so many companies have done this over the years. I mean, you just need to look at Nokia. Nokia, believe it or not, were the first company to develop a smartphone, but they're the last company to bring their smartphone to the market. They became irrelevant because Apple and Samsung and Huawei stepped in there and the rest is history. But other things like, what was really interesting was hand sanitizer during the pandemic. There were distilleries who were creating whiskey. It takes years to distill whiskey and to get it to the stage where it's drinkable. Gin doesn't take as long, but same process as whiskey. I have had clients when I worked in banking who were distillers. So it was really interesting to learn how that whole process worked. But again, a way that they could speed up what the market demanded at the time during the pandemic was to create hand sanitizer, which all goes through the same way that your lovely gin or whiskey comes out on the other end. So they were able to pivot on purpose because market demands have changed and because they were able to create additional services to meet the demands without having to pivot their entire business on purpose. So why might this matter to you? Well, it allows you to stay competitive. And if you need to adapt, sometimes adaptation is all that's required so that you can stay ahead. And I don't mean just ahead of your competitors, but I mean ahead of the market. It also lets you meet clients' needs because your clients' problems evolve and they're going to evolve all of the time. You just need to think about the life cycle of your clients. Your ideal clients at one stage in their life might have a need for one thing, but at another stage in their life, they're going to have a need for another. So if you want that ideal client from cradle to the grave, as the phrase goes, then your solutions need to evolve with that client. Just think of the Neanderthal right through to who we are today. Fair enough? So how can you figure out if the market demands have changed? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. You just need to talk to your clients. You need to ask about their current challenges. But another thing to look at, and often gets overlooked, is to look at industry trends, and not just your industry, other industries too. Look at what's emerging. So if you're a coach or a consultant, look at tech industries. What are they doing? Look at the construction industry. What's happening there? Look at manufacturing. Look at retail. Look at hospitality. Look at other sectors and see what's coming out in their world or what's fading away. What's disappearing that people are no longer leveraging or using or are interested in. Which fads are gone. What's coming through. Because sometimes the industry that we're in might be the last industry who recognizes that there's a new trend coming. And so to get ahead of that trend, that's one way to do it. Look at your offerings as well. So list through your services and think, are they still serving your problems today that your ideal clients have? And if not, what are the gaps? What are clients asking for that you're not currently providing? And is that an opportunity for you to innovate purposefully? Is that an opportunity for you to develop new services? Is that an opportunity for you to tailor something to current demands? Something that will keep you ahead of the curve. And then phase out what's no longer required. Phase out whatever's outdated and let go what's not effective anymore. And yeah, some might say, Deirdre, if it ain't broke, I'm not going to fix it. Well, I disagree, because if you wait until something's broken, it means you're already behind, right? I have had clients who've worked in manufacturing. I've had clients who've worked in transport, and it is about preventative maintenance. That's why you get your car serviced, so it doesn't break down, because there's nothing worse than going out to the car, putting the key in the ignition, or maybe pressing the button, right? And the car doesn't frickin' start. I have had that experience. It is not nice when you need to go somewhere. Don't let that be your business. Don't let that be what happens in your bank balance, in your business account in however many months' time. Regularly schedule time to review the market, to review your competitors, and do an intentional analysis. And in episode 55, I did look at competitors in terms of how you can leverage your competitors to improve your own business. And it's not about looking at your competitors to say, what are they doing? Let's copy them. Not at all. It's about looking at your competitors to identify where are the gaps in the market that they haven't tapped into yet. And that could help you in terms of figuring out where you need to go in your business. And again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep fixing it, but finding the extras that you can include, as in those additional services, or weeding out the things that are no longer required. Okay. And reason number 3 is Maybe you're sitting on a freaking gold mine, right? Maybe you've got an incredible untapped potential within your business. And sometimes the biggest growth opportunities lie just outside your comfort zone. When I did the Level C brand strategy stuff, and I've told this to my clients, Marty Newmeyer, who was my mentor, he also mentored Steve Jobs in Apple, right? Just name dropping there, pretty cool. But anyway, when you're sitting in a room with the guy who mentored Steve Jobs and Apple, it's really interesting to hear that we had to come up with different strategies that we could take a business idea or model and run with, where it was disruptive, it was different, but it also had opportunity to make money. And Marty analyzed and reviewed what our pitch was in relation to the strategy. What was really interesting after he'd heard all of the different groups' pitches was a metaphor that he came up with. And it really resonates with me because if you've been listening to my show, you might know I'm a horsey girl, and regularly on my LinkedIn, follow me over there if you're not already, but regularly on my LinkedIn, I'll share pictures of me out riding my wonderful horse, Vincent. So Marty spoke about a pasture, and what he said was if you have your horse in a stable and you take it out to a pasture, and maybe you've got 3 pastures, very typically what happens is your horse will want to stop at the gate of the first pasture. Now, most of my audience listening to this show are living in Ireland. So, folks, pasture is a field. From all the Western movies and things that I wrote, or listened to, or watched, or read over the years, I'm talking pasture makes total sense to me. But anyway, first field. So, but Marty's American, so I'm going with the pasture for now. And basically what he said was, what will happen is your horse will want to stop at the first pasture to graze that field. But the reason they want to stop there is because that one's the most familiar one to them. That's the one that they can see when they look out over their stable door. What they don't know is that a second pasture and a third pasture exists. So when you go to lead your horse beyond that first pasture, there will be resistance because they won't want to move forward. But if you take them into to the gate, as far as the gate of the second pasture, what will happen is once they hit that second gate, they're going to want to stop there because the third gate feels so scary. And very often what happens is, even when you're trying to think strategically and differently, you might get to the second pasture if you're lucky. Very few brands and businesses ever make it into that third pasture, that ungrazed land that people didn't even know existed when they started out their businesses. So again, that episode I mentioned, episode 73, in terms of strategic thinking, will help you because I'm sharing some of the nuggets I learned from Marty and his colleague Andy Starr when I did that training. So it's really, really helpful. So in terms of those growth opportunities, they might lie for you in that second or third pasture. So I want you to think about that. Maybe you don't need to pivot. Maybe you just need to unleash potential that you don't know exists there yet, or that you can't yet see. And why this matters for you is because it's an opportunity for you to maybe maximize revenue, and new avenues can lead to significant financial gains. It could be just turning on a tap that you didn't even know you had access to. And the thing with this is that requires a lot of personal growth. It requires a huge amount of self-trust. And oh my God, the self-doubt is definitely going to take hold. I can promise you that, because what's also really fantastic about it is that stepping into those new territories expands your skills, it expands your confidence, and so much more. But I really genuinely know that it's freaking scary. And so episode 89 is a super episode about how you can break free from self-doubt. So go and check that episode out if you're like shitting yourself about looking at even the first pasture, never mind the third one. And it might help you eliminate that self-doubt, or at least silence it, or reframe what's coming up for you as we mention these things. Okay. So an actionable step about unleashing your untapped potential is firstly to look at what are your strengths and your passions. Do a bit of a self-assessment, like what are you not currently leveraging that you could introduce and could help you grow from the current position that you're in. And ask some clients, ask some peers, get feedback from them. What do they see as your strengths? And it's really interesting. I was doing a brand story workshop with some clients recently, and one client said, you know, what's incredible is that most people have these talents that are so that they just were born with them, that they don't even see them as talents, but actually they're superpowers in the workplace. And that's not my language, that's my client's language, but I freaking love it. And it makes so much sense. Sometimes your superpower in the workplace, the superpower that you have and that you bring to your business and your brand, you're not even aware of it because you were freaking born with it. But you know what? It will be so apparent to your clients and your peers who see this in you all of the time. So ask them for feedback, ask them to be honest. A really great question to ask is, tell me one thing that I do well and one thing I could improve, right? And that way they'll be like, you're getting both sides of the coin then. So the second part of this is to explore new opportunities and look at complementary services where you can expand your offerings, or how you could maybe consider collaborations and partner with other people to provide more value. Then test the waters, beta test it, pilot launches, things like that. Put out an offer. What I do, honestly, and I do this regularly, is I sell stuff before I build it, because I'm not going to invest the time. I learned this the hard way in creating something new only for nobody to want it or want to buy it, because the time that goes into creating that stuff is money. And then gather feedback once you've piloted it or done your beta launch or whatever it might be, launch a small scale version. And where you can, what's great about doing those pilot programs actually is you get clients who come in who can co-create that whole thing with you. And you can gather feedback from them and use that feedback to refine and improve. And that's exactly what I did with LinkedIn Revenue Accelerator. Okay. So another one, actually, an example of a client of mine as well, who was able to unleash untapped potential, was somebody who had a huge, incredible knack for public speaking. So this one particular client, she's got her own podcast. She gets like 65,000 downloads in her podcast a year. That's a lot for those of you who don't know about podcast stats. But what she was doing was she was coaching individuals, and then she grew it to a group, and then she added a membership, and then she added public speaking, all as different ways to unleash untapped potential in her business. So what I want you to take away is your comfort zone is that lovely place. It's the coziest place by the fire where you're curled up next to your loved ones and it feels nice. But not a whole lot grows there in terms of your business. So I want to encourage you to explore. I want to dare you to explore. Okay, let's recap what we've covered today. Number one, realign with your vision and your values. Don't ignore the signs of misalignment. Number two, adapt to market changes. Stay relevant by meeting current demands. And number three, unlock that untapped potential and embrace new opportunities for growth. So choose one of these three reasons that resonates most with you. And this week, dedicate time to dive in deep into the actionable steps that I shared. Start the process, because clarity comes with action. You'll get nothing from doing nothing, right? So don't forget to check out some of those other episodes that I mentioned. I'll link them all in the show notes below. But if you found value in today's episode, please share it with a fellow entrepreneur, maybe who you know is contemplating a pivot, and send me any messages or anything on LinkedIn with insights, or if you need any extra support around this topic, I'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn. And lastly, please remember to rate, review, and follow the Master Your Business podcast wherever you're streaming from today. Your feedback really does help us reach more people like you. And so until next time, keep mastering your business. And a final thought, remember that pivoting isn't about failure, it's about evolution. Embrace the change and you might just find the success you've been chasing.